We'd like to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity podcast. And I don't know, I'm just so excited to jump into this podcast. So, Tony, take it away. I mean, it's so
Okay.
neat. And today's going to be a really cool session because we came up with this brilliant idea. I mean, I think it's brilliant. We came up with this brilliant idea. So, there's going to be kind of a
So,
part one, part two thing. And so, Tony, you were sharing about the new book out there.
let me just there is a new book out there, okay? And his Dale Carnegie's daughter put it together,
Oh, nice.
and it's called the Updated for the New Next Generation of Leaders.
Okay.
And I think it's 1990 or so, which is 30 years ago or so, but
Yeah.
still updated compared to
Yeah.
1936 and when it was
Right.
first written, right?
Yeah.
But what's kind of cool in this book, and I was skimming through this morning because I had to sit on my shelf, and it's been a long time. But we go Donna, who rewrote this and for says, and this is Carnegie's principles. You will probably find it difficult to apply all of these suggestions all the time. I know because I wrote the book, so this is Carnegie talking, and yet frequently I find it difficult to apply everything I advocated. For example, when you are displeased, it's much easier to criticize and condemn than it is to try to understand the other person's point of view. It's frequently easier to find fault than to find praise. It's more to talk about what you want than to talk about what the other person wants, and so on. So as you read the book, remember that you're merely trying to acquire information. You're attempting to form new habits. And yes, you are attempting to create a new way of life. It requires time and persistence. So I just thought it was cool. They go through how to really get the most out of the book, which I don't think that was in the beginning part of this, in the beginning part of the old book. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with uh, a shoe store by the name of Zappos. Zappos.
And just a little bit, not a
Okay,
lot.
so I don't know if you know. So when I used to teach an ethics class, I had a copywritten program called Ethics in Business, and it was about doing the right thing. Okay, um, and how to treat people, about how to treat people. But Tony Hirsch, who HSIEH, was the founder of Zappos, and ultimately, what's really cool is Amazon acquired Zappos for $1.2 billion, I think it was.
Right.
And but Tony, he built a company around pleasing the customer and pleasing the people that worked at the company. So, and there's pictures of, and I used to use pictures of it as a video that, as you went through the company, everybody's desk was created how they wanted. I don't know. There used to be a strict principle about how you did cubicles years ago
Right.
when I was working. You don't put anything up. Well,
Right.
he said kind of screw all of that, and he said
Right.
we're going to let all the employees do whatever they want to do with their cubicles. And there was stuff all over the place. And they interviewed the people that were there and found out why they were there for the years that they've been there and what they really got out of the culture. So, what I think these principles are trying to define a culture. And I think Carnegie was ahead of his time because if you look, during our culture, Mark, you're in my culture, we're in the 60 years of age. And I worked in a public accounting firm. Um, the culture was if you didn't follow the guidelines and the rules, you were out. I mean, it was really strict years ago. But now that culture's changed a lot, and they've tried to bring it into new age. With all the generations coming through, um, and and I had managers that were complete a-holes, if you will. That I wouldn't want to, but I tried to be a little kinder to people. I tried to educate them. I tried to bring them along. And I had people that worked with me for 30 years. I mean, that came along and stood with me wherever I went, they followed. And you got some of the same people. So, and there's a reason because, we had our own culture, if you will. We had a culture that, cared about people. And while we want to educate people, we want people to grow. Sometimes education and growth are challenging for people. But the book itself, the principles in the book still stand true. It's a matter of how you apply them in today's environment. And I think that's what this new generation book is about. How do you apply them in today? So I'll give you an example. Like we used to have to do inventories go in and I mean these are major manufacturing companies, billions of dollars and most of it's tied up in inventory. So you had to go in on a Saturday, all right? Well, what happens during prime season during I'll say October through January, right, where you're doing these inventories? It's freaking football season, all right? It's college football season. So a lot of the old generation you came to work no matter what. You didn't ask for that Saturday off to go to a football game. But in today's generation, because there was an inventory going on, it didn't matter. You didn't go. You could ask for that Saturday off. And people managers were supposed to give you the Saturday off, and they would managers would do it themselves, and they go do the inventory. So the point I'm trying to get at is that cultures over years have changed, and where things used to apply and they don't apply today. Where you couldn't take a Saturday off because you had inventory duty and you had to go. That was a major requirement. Today, that might not be it's not as strict. And so they became kinder to the new cultures, new generations coming out, so that people want to stay and work longer. I don't think it really changed the way people stay and work longer because Ernst and Young and the other companies that are out there are losing more people today, younger people to go other places. They get their experience in 2 years or whatever they need, and then they go somewhere else. I mean, so I don't think a lot of changed. Um, but some people have stayed on, and stayed longer because they've tried to adopt a culture. So wherever I went, I tried to make sure that I would bring the right ethical culture to the locations and the workplace. So, I think, and how you treat people. So the part today is, and you wrote this German and American part. So we'll do the American part. Um, the principles today are number 16, 17, and 18. And 16 is let the other person feel that their idea is theirs. And we'll leave that sit for a minute. Let the other person feel like the idea is theirs. And try on number 17 is try honestly to see things from the other person's point of view. Okay. Which is hard sometimes. Try to honestly see things from the other person's point of view. And then the last one, 18, is be sympathetic with others, the other person's ideas and desires. Okay. So these are we're in the leadership part of this whole how to deal with workers and people and stuff like that. Um, so how do those three principles hit anybody? Are they what do you think? Share,
So,
Mark.
ladies, you want to share? You want to because
Hey,
we're in
Rosanna.
the American fairy tale section right now. So you're going to be like, "Oh, they're so cool! Like that's so neat! Like that really is amazing! Like that like oh my goodness, that is so awesome!" So that's what you're supposed to say, ladies, and then
Okay,
try
let the lady
honestly.
let the lady speak. Katrina, what are your thoughts here? Come on, you're Rosanna.
Well, I appreciate the fact that you brought in people and treated them with, kindness and how they thought and how they wanted things. I think sometimes when you go to work and people are edgy with you all the time, it makes it difficult to work.
Yeah, it does. I can tell you that the one company I was with, I think I lost out of hundreds of people we hired, I only had one person leave the company because they relocated. So it is about how you what you the culture you create. So this I think these principles are creating a culture, how you relate to people and how you get things done. Now, I do agree, and I don't know, Rosanna, if you heard the early part of that you can't always apply you know um, you can't always apply these principles the way that they're written. Sometimes you get frustrated, and I think that you just so when that happens, you either you got to figure out how you're going to deal with some of these things because it can be a challenge, and I mean, but I think they stand on on their own, and they create a safe environment for people. That's the idea. Um, and I think as we go forward, and when people feel safe, they want to work, they want to do the work. And that's the idea I think that's coming out of these three principles. Creating emotional safety through understanding. I mean, it's about That's what it's about. And people want to do more work when you can create that safe environment for people.
So Katrina and Nora, what are your thoughts?
I think that it's a lot easier said than done at times.
Yes.
When talking about, going in Saturdays for inventory, brought back a memory. So I used to work for this cabinet factory and we would do inventory on Saturdays. And, like nobody wants to go in and do inventory on Saturdays. But we kind of created this atmosphere for the inventory days that you wanted to come because of the fear of missing out. Like
Yeah,
it was like
it's cool. Yeah,
the funnest day of the year for like all the employees. Like you saw a side of all your coworkers that you didn't see on, the day to day. And so it kind of created like we made it fun. We did extra like stuff that just it was just great, and like the atmosphere was completely different that day, that people actually like wanted to come because they had this fear of like missing something so cool and so great. So
yeah,
I think that's really important to, I don't know, like you go to work and you do your day to day, but then to also have like a day where it's different and it's like you connect in different ways.
yeah. But you said something, the fear of missing out. If you could create the fear of missing out, then people want to be there. And I think that's important. It's like even when you're, that's and so I'll give you to hit on your point there. January 2nd was always a day to do inventories right after the new year was things were shut down. And one company that we worked with, they would have after the inventory was done, they would have like a January 1st party. Just they would bring on and all the stuff, the balloons, they bring food, they catered. So they made it like unique that because nobody wanted to be there the day after, New Year's Eve. Um, so they made it fun. I mean, you could do that, and if you create that culture, people want to be around. So I think it's cool.
Nice. Katrina, how about you?
You're on mute. You're on mute. Can't hear you. There you go. Thanks.
I didn't really get all of it. I'm kind of trying to multitask here, so I
Okay.
was listening but not very well, so I don't really have thoughts on that.
Okay. So anybody else have any thoughts on, what Tony had shared?
Yeah. The only other point I'll add is that, I think, and we deal a lot with kids that have ADHD and even adults that have ADHD. I guess, um, kids need to feel safe and they need to feel that they can trust the person that they're working with. And that takes a lot of energy, um, because a lot of kids with ADHD are not easily to open up and share all of their views and feelings. And so we have to work harder to get these young kids to open up to us. And so I think by creating a safe environment, like, I want to make them feel comfortable. I don't want to make them feel afraid to share something with me. Um, and we need to do that more with kids that have challenges. And that doesn't always happen. Um, Coaches don't always see the challenges when they're playing a ball game and they have an emotional regulation breakdown because they struck out. Um, they yell. They don't see the other, what's going on with this child. So I think I'm sympathetic to all that because I'm close to it, but a lot of people don't see it. So for me, I try every day to do follow a lot of these principles. I don't always follow them to the T, because I get frustrated a lot too. But I'm old enough that when I get frustrated, or when I get frustrated with people because they're not doing what they said they would do, I can make changes occur, and um, I don't my frustration doesn't have to come out on them. So hopefully that makes sense. But these are longstanding principles. I think if we can, and you don't just read them one time. You got to read them over and over to really make them embed. And that's what I thought was cool about the beginning of this book is saying, how do you get the most out of the book Well, you read it through quickly one time, then you go through and you read each principle a day, understand it, and put it into action because it takes action to make things actually happen. And if you just read them, like we spend 15 minutes on a Saturday morning, if you're not, these are not going to get embedded into you after 15 minutes or anybody listening to this. So
Right.
that's the
So
American version, Mark. That's the American version.
that's the
Okay.
American version. And so I think, it'd be so cool to how many principles are there, Tony?
There's 30 principles.
The 30-day, like we have the 30-day challenge on the secret about time. I think the real key is I think a lot of times people go through something and they're like, oh, I understand that. And it's like, do you? Like, do you? And so it'd be really cool to have a 30-day challenge, for this on Life GPS where people could go ahead and go through this and watch a short 10-minute or less video on this. And they could really internalize it. They could say, like, share a reflection. Like, what do you think about this? And so, definitely, this is really cool. I love this stuff. This is really neat. Now, we're going to do something a little different, and so we're going to have a part 2. If you went ahead, like, which of these 4 shapes do you tend to like the most? If you chose the analytic, the cube, or out of order, you might not want to listen to the second part, okay? And then if you chose the ball, or you don't like when there's conflict with others, you definitely do not want to. You definitely do not like when you go into an R-rated movie, okay? And they say there's violence and sex and language. When you see violence, sex, and language, you don't come out and complain to the owner, to the theater owner, and say, "Hey, there's violence." No, they told you what it was. So in this second segment, that's what we're saying. It could be an R-rated, so you might not want to do it. And then if you're an expressive, I don't know, you kind of like things to get things mixed up and kind of a little sassy. So that's what the second one's going to be. So hopefully you enjoyed this, benefited from this, share this with others. They'll be amazed by it. So here we go.